Well, I'm excited to be here today talking with somebody who loves what he does. Um, Ian Dilworth is here with us. We are celebrating National Puppy Day. What a fun time to talk about training pups, and that is exactly what Ian does. Ian is with us from Smart Dogs Training and Lodging, and I'm lucky enough to know Ian and know all of his secrets, but more importantly, I've had him help me train, and I know that you take this very serious and you're very passionate about it, and you've been doing it now for over 12 years.
Yeah.
So my first question, let's talk about training puppies, because if you're going to get a new puppy, you're going to have to put the time in to train them. But the question is, can all dogs be trained?
Of course. All dogs can be trained. Some take more work than others, but they can all turn around for sure.
Yeah. Is it really training the pup, or are you training the person, or both?
It's both. Yeah, it's both. So when I do a training appointment, people usually figure that out a few minutes in. They're like, you're spending a lot more time talking to me than working with the dog. And that's because training the people is the hard part.
Right.
In an hour-long appointment, in an hour-long appointment, I usually spend maybe 15 minutes with the dog and 45 minutes working with the people.
With the people, yeah. We're bad. We have a lot of bad habits to break too.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so tell us a little bit more about some of the do's and don'ts that you cover when you're going through training especially with a new pup.
Right. So as far as, I guess, general principles, do's and don'ts, the do's are starting early. Lots of times people think that they have to wait till their puppy is 3 or 4 months old before they can start anything. And you can start good habits right away. And really basic things like sit go a long way towards helping the puppy get into more advanced obedience at an early age. And all that stuff helps. So that's probably the biggest thing is start early, stay nice and calm. If people get upset, the dogs get upset, they get nervous, and they're not going to enjoy the process, and neither are you.
Yeah.
So those are the biggest do's. As far as don'ts, the biggest one is trying to work in an individual session too long. So some people working with a puppy, they sit down, they try to work on sit for 10 minutes, even 5 minutes can be too long sometimes. So
Sure.
you just want to keep the sessions short and sweet.
A shorter attention span for a pup, like a child. They only have so much focus before they're often paying attention to squirrels and other things.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Are you tell us, like, what's the biggest mistake that people make as they're training a new dog? Like the biggest thing you see happen?
Not being aware that they are always training their dog. Whether there's not like a time when the dog turns on its like learning ability and it's like, okay, I'm going to pay attention and create a new behavior now. They are always learning from you. So if it's Sunday morning and you're wearing your sweatpants and they come and jump on you and you pet them, you are rewarding them for jumping on you. They don't know, later on it's that you're going out. Now you've got your nice clothes on and they come in from the backyard and they're muddy. They're going to come and jump on you and say, hey, why are you yelling at me now and not petting me?
Right. So, consistency.
Yeah. Being aware of what you're doing and just always being consistent about what your response to their behavior, because they're always learning.
So as much as I'm trying to maybe be calm and laid back and give them a break by not making them sit and wait before I open the door and let them out, I'm actually probably doing more damage because I'm not consistently using the same routine, and should be going back and staying on that routine at all times, even though it feels like it's a great reward to break that. You've just undone everything.
Well, I wouldn't say you've undone it, but you've taken a little step backwards instead of another little step forward. And once dogs are older, then we want to be much more consistent, right? The rules are the rules, and they're always that way. With puppies, until they understand, we can be a little bit more flexible with that to make sure that they enjoy the learning process.
Right.
But once they're older and we know they understand and we know they've got the self-control, then we definitely want to be 100% consistent.
That makes sense. And as you can start to see that with the puppy as they're starting to grasp more of the concepts that they're
Sure.
going to understand it more. Makes
Yep.
perfect sense. Do you, are you starting to, CBD has become the big trend. Obviously, that's what CR World and CR Pets Thrive is constantly
Sure.
talking about. We've used it. I've used it on my pups. Well, I call them pups. They're full grown. One's a senior. So just like senior humans, we already know that pets do have an endocannabinoid system, just like the humans do. We know that when they have the same scenarios that humans have, stress and anxiety, or if they have age is a factor, so achy bones or joints or muscles, or if they're having some digestive issues or even things like allergies, that's where over time the endocannabinoid system gets a little beat up, needs a little replenishing. Using CBD can help to restore that and give them a little bit of reprieve from some of those things going on. Do you see that that's something that is starting to happen with training with pups?
Yeah, well, I've had lots of customers just report minor miracles with using CBDs. It tends to be a little bit more for older dogs for, things like arthritis and, joint pain and things like that. But definitely for puppies, allergies, and just staying calm. So some puppies have fear issues for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason. They're just more fearful of new things. It can be things even just like the furnace or the furnace kicking on or the air conditioning kicking on can scare some dogs. And if they've got that really low fear threshold, then CBD can definitely help them kind of stay in the moment rather than get caught up all in their fear.
Sure, just kind of breaks down um, that high anxiety and maybe even the separation as or
Oh
even
yeah,
new environment. You've especially for those adopted pups, when you're bringing a pup in and they've already been through whatever they've been through, whether it's being a stray or being in a kennel situation or going through foster care. It's nice to have that calm house to be in, but it doesn't mean that they're completely rid of the anxieties that they came with. So
sure.
that could help with their training process then, right?
Definitely. And separation anxiety is the hardest thing to work on in dog training because by definition it's happening when you're not there. So we're always kind of having to train around the issue and come at it from an angle instead of working on it head on. And CBD definitely helps with a lot of those separation anxiety issues.
I can imagine. I can imagine. I mean, what do you do? You're not there to train them. How does somebody work with a pup and
Right?
train them
You're
if they're not there?
working on background obedience to help build their confidence, slow exposure to being alone. So things like, and there's all different levels of severity for it. So sometimes you're literally just putting a dog in a crate and maybe stepping out of the room and waiting 5 seconds and walking back in before they get anxious and letting them out and trying to
Right.
repeat that a lot of times. So if they're always getting anxious in the crate or whenever they're left alone in the mudroom or whatever it is, then that habit's just becoming stronger. So you have to try to break it down into smaller portions that they can handle and then slowly increase it.
And that makes sense. And we did that a lot with a few different training portions to break it into bite-sized pieces, not to try and do the whole time. That takes some careful planning, especially if you're bringing in a new pet. So that's definitely something that you're going to want to consider and try and approach even before you bring in the new dog to the house. You can start thinking about that routine and getting the family prepared, especially when there's other people
Yeah,
involved. It's not just one owner, but you've got several people involved, like in our house where there's kids involved. You have to
sure.
explain that all to them so that they
It all
understand how it plays
it
a part. um,
definitely complicates the issue sometimes.
I would imagine that's different styles of training. um, Walk us through one of the things that when you train a new person coming in with a pup. What's one of the first things you're going to work on with them?
So when we're talking about young puppies, there's three things I guess that we focus on: potty training, basic manners, and sit. So sit is kind of the beginning of basic obedience, and the potty training and the basic manners. Those are kind of bigger subjects. I'm not sure if we have time for that today. So a good thing to talk about would be sit.
Mm-hmm.
Once you teach a dog to sit, you ask them to sit to get their food, to go through a door, to come up on the couch before you throw a ball. And so we're getting them in the habit of asking for things rather than just explosively doing things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if they're sitting, they're not jumping, they're not pawing, they're not doing other things. So it's a calm behavior, which puts them in an asking position rather than in a demanding or doing position. So it's typically one of the first things we work on. So to teach a puppy to sit, you start with them in a standing position. This is very basic stuff. Have a treat right in front of their nose. You bring it up and kind of back over their head, and they will try to track it. And as they do that, you typically will bring their butt down. As soon as their butt hits the floor, you give them the treat.
Gotcha.
So that basic
Just
process.
Immediately, so that they know butt to the ground equals treat and sit.
Yep.
Huh.
Yep. So you want to get just a few successful ones and then give it a little break. Come back, to it 10 minutes later or an hour later or whatever, and do it just a few more times. And most puppies will catch on, in a matter of minutes, if not a couple of hours of trying, if you space it out right.
And I've seen this, we just brought in a stray and we're adopting her. And so we talked about this, and it's very interesting to see now how when you explained it that way, okay, if they look to you first before they get to do things, they start to catch on. And we're seeing that already just in the short amount of time, because we just
Awesome.
less than a week ago. So just the consistency of, you have to sit down and wait, then I let you out. You sit down and wait, then you get your food. Now the dog, she might be excited, but it's not until I'm giving her the eye contact or she's giving me eye contact that it's happening. So you can already see how quickly that can create more habits that are positive.
Nice.
And so it works, you guys. If you haven't tried this type of training, these guys know how to do it. Your group has studied under some of the well-known trainers, right?
Yeah, we've worked with Cesar Milan and a couple other trainers out in California and from the East Coast too. So yeah.
So very consistent way to approach it. With that, is there, are there other last minute pieces of advice if somebody's looking to do this training, whether they're a new pup or whether they've had this dog for 5 years, what would be that advice you'd give to them?
I guess it sounds kind of repetitive, but the biggest thing is picking your rules and being consistent about them, whatever they are. Some trainers will tell you the dog, dog should never be allowed on the couch. And I think as long as they're invited up on the couch, that's fine. If you want them up there. But if you don't want them on the couch, that's fine. If you do, that's fine. You just want to decide what's important to you and be consistent about insisting that they do that. And they're creatures of habit. So if you can get them to do it just even a few times, then it starts to become easier and easier. And once you've done it X number of times, it just becomes automatic. You don't have to make them do it anymore. It's just their habit at that point. So pick what's important to you and stick with being consistent about enforcing it, and dogs will almost always develop that habit.
And make sure that the whole team is on board. So if it's, if you're in a family environment, they all have to understand the rules and this is how it works, or it doesn't work very well, does it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great advice. This has just been a little segment of what good training can be for your new pup. So if you're thinking about bringing in a new pup for National Puppy Day, or adopting, of course, we love adoptions. We love the idea of bringing in a dog that needs a home and wants the love. And we're seeing it firsthand that when you bring them in and you spend that little bit of time to train them, they can be your family's new best friend. So my advice is, of course, if you're going to use the treats, we love the CR Pet Thrive, the Thrive bites. They can be broken up into little bites so you can do that type of training. You're not having to do a whole treat for them, break it up and give them little pieces. But more importantly, contact a professional like Ian. Ian, where they're going to find you at smartdogstrainingandlodging.com. You're based in Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago.
There's people that send their dogs to us from all over the country, though, too. We do training in people's homes, but also lodging in our home. And we've had people from all corners of the country.
That's fantastic. So keep them in mind. I know that they are so good with the pups with, again, any age, but they're really good with helping the owners to understand the training, and what a nice treat it would be to know that your dog is taken care of if you have to take a vacation. So keep them in mind. Check them out at smartdogstrainingandlodging.com, and reach out to them if you have questions. There's I think that's the starting point is get it started.
Definitely. We're happy to help.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ian. We appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you the next time at CRW Network.
You are very welcome. It's nice talking to you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.